Hey everybody, it's Noah from American Trucks. On the big table in front of me, we've got the barred front bumper fitting the 2021 and newer F-150, excluding the Raptor. Now this bumper is going to be a great choice for the F-150 owner who wants some more lighting, some more front end protection, and the look of a tight fitting and low profile upgraded front bumper. Just at first looks with this bumper, it's a lower profile option and I really like that. It doesn't look like a big pouty lip, and I think probably the best part of this one is that it looks right at home on a completely clean and stock truck. We've got two LED locations here on the wings that use the included LED light bricks, as well as a mounting spot and provision for up to a 30-inch light bar here in the center. Now, in the grand scheme of things, usually aftermarket bumpers are installed to give the vehicle some better protection on the trail, or even just on the road for daily fender bender protection. Now this guy is pretty beefy and it's definitely going to serve its purpose, and it even has an integrated splash guard underneath here, so you'll be protected from obstacles underneath as well. The barred front bumper is constructed entirely from pretty heavy duty steel, and this isn't a huge sheet metal steel bumper with poor fit and finish. There's actually a lot of detail integrated even to every little nook and cranny on this thing, right down to the little tabs for that front plate application. Now the main openings in the front of the bumper are covered in steel grills like this, and everything can be customized to work exactly how you want it. You can just pull this front grill out, throw a light bar in of your choice. Now everything across the bumper, from the brackets to the screws that are included with the kit, everything's coated in natural black, and that's gonna ward off any corrosion. Then the last thing I want to mention is that it even comes with a 5-year warranty, so you can be confident in your purchase. This barred front bumper for the F-150 falls right around the $600 price point, which isn't going to put a huge dent in your wallet in terms of larger truck upgrades. I do personally think a sub $1,000 price point for a bumper like this is a great price, considering that just getting paint issues fixed on a stock bumper costs more than a full upgraded bumper these days. Looking at the install aspect of this bumper, it has a difficulty of 2 out of 3 wrenches and about 2 hours for that install time. Now there's nothing to worry about as far as the install goes, because we're going to walk you through it step by step over the install bay right now.
Tools required for this install include an impact gun, a ratchet, a clip remover tool, scissors or diagonal cutters, 10, 13, and 19 millimeter wrenches, 13, 16, and 17 millimeter ratcheting wrenches, a swivel adapter, an extension, 4 and 5 millimeter Allen sockets, 10, 11, 19, and 21 millimeter sockets, and some zip ties.
What's up guys? Today we're installing a front bumper on our F-150, so let's get started. So to remove our front bumper, we need to come underneath the truck to our frame horns. We have 1 nut on the inside and 2 nuts on the outside. Now I'm gonna remove 2 out of 3 and just loosen up the 3rd one up top on the outside until we grab a buddy to help us remove it. So I'll grab a 21 millimeter socket to remove the 2 nuts. And then for now, I'll just loosen up the last one. And then you can do that same thing on the other side. Next, we can disconnect our harness. We have this gray tab that we'll pull back on. And then we can disconnect our connector. So now we're ready to pull our bumper off. I've got a second set of hands here. We're each gonna remove that one last nut supporting our bumper on the backside, and then we'll pull our bumper off. So now we're ready to assemble our new front bumper. Now the first thing we're gonna do is bolt down the outsides of our bumper because they are moving. We have a bolt with a lock washer and flat washer. There's gonna be 2 per side that we're gonna thread into those holes, and then we can tighten down the pivot bolts. Now we can take our bolts with the lock washer and flat washer and thread them into our holes. And then we can take a 16mm ratcheting wrench to tighten these down. Next, we can come to our 2 pivot bolts, and we'll take a 16mm ratcheting wrench on the bolt side and a 17mm ratcheting wrench on the nut side to tighten these down. And then you can do that same thing on the other side. Next, we can assemble our fog lights and get those mounted into our bumper. The first thing we need to do is mount our bracket to our fog light, and then we can put it onto the bumper. So the first thing we can do is slide our bracket into place. And then these little rectangular cutouts on each side is where we're gonna drop our nuts. And then we'll take the included Allen wrench to thread in our Allen bolts. And we'll just leave those hand tight for now until we get this mounted up into our bumper so that we can center it. Now we can mount our fog light to our bumper. So we're gonna take our bolt with a lock washer and flat washer, and slide that through our bracket from the bottom. And then we can slide that bolt through that bracket. And then we'll take a nut and put it on the other end of our bolt. And then we'll just center up our fog light. And then we can grab a 13mm wrench for the bolt side and a 13mm ratcheting wrench for the nut side and tighten this down. And then with that in place, we can go back and tighten down our Allen bolts on the side. Next, we can mount this upper trim of our bumper. We have 3 Allen bolts with flat washers that will go through the top, and then flat washers and locking nuts for the bottom side. So now we can raise this up and slide our bolts through. And then we'll get a flat washer and a lock nut on the back side. And then once we have those in place, we'll take a 4mm Allen socket on our bolt and a 10mm wrench on our nut to tighten this down. Now next we can install our skid plate. We've got these 4 mounting tabs at the bottom of our bumper that we're going to be sliding these U-clips onto. And then we'll throw our skid plate up and thread in our Allen bolts with lock washers and flat washers. So now we can take our U-clips. The side with the threaded portion is going to go towards the top of the bumper. Slide this on. Line up the hole. And then we'll do the same thing for the rest of those brackets. And then you can do the same thing with the 2 tabs on the other side. And now we can grab our skid plate and raise this up into place. Now once we have this in the spot where it's going to go, we can install those bolts with the lock washer and flat washer using the included Allen wrench. And then once we have those all installed, we'll take a 5mm Allen socket to tighten them all down. Next, we can install our license plate bracket. We have an Allen bolt with a flat washer that's going to be going through the front side, and then another flat washer and lock nut for the back side. Slide our bolt in, and then get our flat washer and our locking nut on the back here. Then we'll just do the same thing for the other one. And then we'll grab a 4mm Allen socket for the bolt side and a 10mm wrench for our nut side, and tighten this down. And then once we have that installed, we can install the clips for the screws for the license plate. These are just going to press into those squares. Next, we can start our wiring. We'll start at our battery terminals here. We'll take an 11mm socket to remove the nut on our positive terminal. Then we can take the red wire and slide that on and reinstall our nut. And then take that same 11mm socket to tighten that down. And then we'll switch to a 10mm socket for our ground. Throw our ground on, reinstall our nut, and use that same 10mm socket to tighten it down. Next, we can take the two connectors for our fog lights and drop those down towards the floor. So now all we have left is the wire for our switch that we're going to have to run over to the driver's side. So I'm going to zip tie this running across. We have a bunch of clips across our cowl that we can use to zip tie. I'm going to start with this hole in this metal right here and work my way over. Then we'll take a pair of scissors or diagonal cutters to cut off the excess of our zip tie. Next, we can get our switch into our cabin. We have a grommet tucked way back in here. It's gonna be pretty much impossible to see with my hand in there, but it's right to the right side of your brake cylinder. So we'll pull back on that grommet and then slide our switch through. Now we can hop inside the cabin and grab our switch. We'll peel back the double-sided tape backing. And then you can mount this wherever you'd like. I'm just gonna put this right under our parking brake switch and just press it down. So now we're ready to get our front bumper mounted up onto the truck. To do this, you're gonna wanna grab an extra set of hands. We have a bolt with a flat washer that's gonna be going through the front of our frame horn, and then another flat washer and a lock nut going on the back side. So now I've got my buddy with me and we're ready to lift this up and get our bolts installed. Now we can go underneath the truck and take a 19mm wrench and socket to tighten these down. And then we can do that same thing on the other side. Next, we can take our connector and plug that into our fog light. And then I'm just gonna bunch up the excess here. And then we can take a zip tie and put it through the hole in the frame rail and out the other side. Now with our excess wiring all tied up, we'll get our zip tie. And then we'll get a pair of scissors or diagonal cutters and cut off the excess. Now for our other fog light connector, we're gonna have to run that over to the other side. So I'm gonna go over the frame rails here. And now just to be extra sure that this doesn't go anywhere near our serpentine belt, I'm gonna use these holes here to zip tie this up. And now we can plug in our other fog light connector. And then once again, we're gonna use these two holes in our frame to zip tie this up out of the way. We'll bunch up our excess here. And then we can cut off the excess of our zip tie. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the Bard front bumper for your 2021 and newer F-150, excluding the Raptor. Thank you for watching, and for all things F-150, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.